Welcome back to USA Coin Auctions. Imagine finding an old Wheat Pennies in a box of coins, an inherited collection, an antique jar, or even a forgotten group of cents. At first glance, it may look like nothing more than an ordinary 1-cent coin, but some Wheat Pennies have become legendary in the collecting world because of their rarity, minting history, unusual varieties, and extraordinary condition. In today's market, the right Wheat Penny can attract serious collector attention and, for exceptional examples, prices can climb from hundreds of dollars into the thousands, tens of thousands, or even far beyond. In this video, we are looking at 4 of the most valuable and desirable Wheat Pennies that every collector should know. These are coins that demonstrate why checking dates, mint marks, varieties, and condition can turn an ordinary-looking cent into an exciting numismatic discovery. Auction records tracked by PCGS show just how dramatic the market can become for elite examples, with several key Wheat Penny varieties reaching 5- and even 6-figure prices. Let's get started. Number 1. The 1953 Wheat Penny was struck at the San Francisco Mint and carries the small S mint mark beneath the date, identifying its origin. In total, the San Francisco Mint produced 181,835,000 examples of the 1953 cent, and the coin was made from the classic 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc composition used for Lincoln cents of this era. But here is where the story becomes especially interesting for collectors. Although many examples were produced, truly outstanding coins with original mint luster, strong details, attractive red color, and exceptional mint state grades can become highly desirable. PCGS records an impressive auction result of $18,000 for a 1953 Lincoln cent graded MS68RD, sold by Heritage Auctions on January 19, 2025. So when someone says that a 1953 Wheat Penny can become a valuable collectible, the important question is not simply whether the date and mint mark match, it is how exceptional the individual coin is. In today's collector market, condition, color, preservation, certification, eye appeal, and rarity at the highest grades can completely transform the value of an otherwise ordinary-looking 1-cent coin. The history of this coin takes us back to 1953, during the final decade of the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series. The Lincoln cent had been introduced in 1909, with the obverse portrait of President Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. The reverse featured 2 wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above them. This wheat reverse remained one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage until 1958, making the 1953 an important late series example for collectors. The San Francisco Mint was responsible for producing the S variety, and that tiny mint mark is one of the first things collectors should examine when identifying this coin. The 1953 had a mintage of 181,835,000 pieces, while Philadelphia and Denver also produced Lincoln cents in 1953. That makes the 1953 particularly interesting as part of a complete Lincoln wheat cent collection because collectors often seek examples from every date and mint combination. The coin also represents a fascinating period in American history, when the United States was entering a new technological and economic era. For collectors today, owning a beautifully preserved 1953 is not simply owning an old penny, it is owning a small piece of mid-century American history that survived more than 7 decades. Now let's look closely at the unique features that make the 1953 Wheat Penny so recognizable. The coin measures approximately 19 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 3.11 grams, with a plain edge and the traditional bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. On the obverse, you will see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the date 1953 positioned in front of his portrait. Directly beneath the date area is the important S mint mark, indicating San Francisco production. On the reverse, the famous wheat stalks frame the denomination and lettering, creating the classic wheat cent appearance that collectors immediately recognize. On a high-quality uncirculated example, the details can appear remarkably sharp, with original mint luster reflecting across the surfaces. The strongest pieces can also display an attractive natural red coloration, commonly designated RD by grading services. This red designation can be extremely important when comparing high-grade copper coins because collectors often place substantial premiums on coins that have retained their original red appearance. The combination of the 1953 date, San Francisco S. mint mark, classic wheat reverse, original copper color, strong strike, and preservation creates the visual package that can make a 1953 S especially appealing to serious Lincoln cent collectors. When we talk about an uncirculated 1953 S wheat penny, we are talking about a coin that has remained in mint state rather than showing the normal where caused by circulation. This distinction is extremely important. An uncirculated coin may still have small marks from contact with other coins, but the key feature is that it retains its original mint state surfaces rather than the smooth, worn appearance seen on circulated pieces. Within the uncirculated category, however, there are enormous differences in quality. A coin graded around MS-60 is very different from a superb MS-66, MS-67, or MS-68 example. As the grade rises, the number of coins capable of reaching that level generally becomes much smaller, and collector competition can increase dramatically. PCGS lists the 1953 S in its MS-68 RD category and records an $18,000 auction result at that grade, demonstrating how dramatically exceptional preservation can influence the market. Historical auction evidence also shows that a 1953 SMS-67 red NGC example sold for $152.75 in 2014, illustrating the enormous importance of the exact grade and market conditions when discussing value. These results show why collectors should never judge the value of every 1953 S by one headline price. The spectacular five-figure result belongs to an extraordinary top-grade coin, while other uncirculated examples can trade for substantially different amounts depending on grade, color, certification, and overall quality. The biggest attraction of a high-grade 1953 S is the possibility of finding a coin that combines several desirable characteristics at once. Imagine a coin with brilliant original red color, strong wheat stalk details, sharp lettering, a clean Lincoln portrait, attractive mint luster, and very few distracting marks. That is the type of coin that can attract serious attention from Lincoln cent specialists. Red copper coins are particularly exciting because copper naturally changes color over time, and finding a 1953 S that has preserved an attractive original red appearance after more than 70 years can be an important selling point. Collectors also examine the surfaces under magnification for contact marks, scratches, spots, discoloration, carbon flecks, and other characteristics that can affect the grade strike quality is another major consideration. A beautifully struck coin with crisp details can stand out among other examples of the same date. Number 2. The 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, a coin that can attract serious attention from collectors when its date, originality, condition, color, strike, and overall preservation come together in the right way. At first glance, a heavily circulated or very dirty 1940 wheat penny may appear to be nothing more than an old 1-cent coin, but the story behind this piece is much bigger. The 1940 issue belongs to the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, a series that has become one of the most recognizable and widely collected American coin series of the 20th century. The no mint mark version was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and historical records show that approximately 586.8 million were produced. But here is where the excitement begins. Collectors do not judge a coin only by how many were originally made. They also look at how many examples remain today, how well they survived, whether important details are still visible, and whether an individual coin has characteristics that separate it from ordinary examples. That is why an old 1940 wheat penny deserves a closer look before anyone decides that it is simply a common penny. The coin may have spent decades in circulation, in collections, drawers, boxes, jars, or forgotten containers, and every one of those years adds another chapter to its story. So if you have a 1940 wheat penny without a mint mark sitting somewhere in your collection, stay with us, because we are going to explore its history, design, collector appeal, condition, market possibilities, and the important details that can make an old Lincoln wheat penny much more interesting than its original 1-cent denomination suggests. The history of the 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny takes us back to an important period in American history. The Lincoln cent had been introduced in 1909, and its famous design was created by Victor David Brenner. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln, one of the most recognizable figures in American history, while the reverse carries the classic two wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. The 1940 Philadelphia issue continued this traditional wheat cent design. Unlike coins struck at Denver or San Francisco, Philadelphia coins of this period generally carried no mint mark, meaning the absence of a letter below the date is exactly what collectors expect to see on this particular issue. The coin was made from a bronze composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, with a diameter of about 19 millimeters and a standard weight around 3.11 grams. These specifications give the coin a familiar feel and appearance that many collectors instantly recognize. What makes the 1940 issue especially fascinating is the historical atmosphere surrounding its production. America was entering a dramatic decade, and the wheat penny was circulating through an era that would soon include enormous economic, industrial, and social changes. A single 1940 penny could have passed through countless hands during the early 1940s, potentially circulating during one of the most transformative periods in American history. This historical connection is one reason wheat pennies continue to attract collectors today. They are not simply pieces of copper-based metal. They are small historical objects that connect modern collectors with everyday American life from generations ago. When you hold a 1940 wheat penny, you are holding an object that was officially produced more than 80 years ago, and that age alone gives it a special place in the history of American coinage. One of the most important features to understand is the no mint mark itself. For a 1940 Lincoln wheat penny, the absence of a mint mark indicates that the coin was produced at Philadelphia rather than Denver or San Francisco. This is not an error by itself, and collectors should not automatically assume that every 1940 penny without a mint mark is a rare minting mistake. Instead, the no mint mark Philadelphia issue is an established variety of the 1940 Lincoln cent. The Philadelphia issue had a very large original production, with PCGS listing a mintage of 586,810,000, while NGC lists 586,825,872 for its catalog entry. The small difference between these published figures is a cataloging detail, but both sources clearly establish that the Philadelphia issue was produced in enormous numbers. The real excitement for collectors, therefore, comes from identifying the individual coin's condition and characteristics. On the obverse, collectors will examine Lincoln's portrait, the date 1940, the lettering, the rim, and the overall sharpness of the design. On the reverse, the famous wheat ears and lettering are essential areas to inspect. Even on a heavily circulated example, the survival of important design details can make the coin more attractive to collectors. A very dirty appearance can also make the first inspection difficult, which is why experienced collectors take their time instead of making a quick decision based only on surface appearance. The coin's original color, surface quality, strike, remaining detail, and possible varieties can all contribute to its desirability. A coin that looks ordinary under poor lighting can sometimes reveal much more under proper magnification and careful examination. Now let us talk about the phrase that catches the attention of almost every coin enthusiast: rarity and collector demand. The 1940 Philadelphia wheat penny is not considered an extremely scarce date in circulated grades, and that is an important distinction when discussing its potential value. However, collector demand can become much stronger when the conversation moves toward unusually high-grade examples. PCGS reports survival estimates for the 1940 Philadelphia cent of roughly 58 million across all grades, around 12,000 at MS60 or better, and about 6,000 at MS65 or better. This demonstrates something extremely important about coin collecting. Original mintage and surviving high-grade population are two different things. Millions may have been struck, but truly exceptional examples with outstanding preservation become much more interesting as condition improves. That is where collectors begin paying close attention to surfaces, luster, strike. Number 3. The 1950 D. Lincoln wheat penny is one of those classic American coins that can immediately capture the attention of collectors, especially when a collector discovers one that has been sitting unnoticed for decades. At first glance, a dusty 1950 D. wheat penny may look like nothing more than an old 1-cent coin, but its age, historic design, Denver mint mark, copper composition, and connection to the famous Lincoln wheat cent series make it an exciting piece for anyone interested in American coinage. The 1950 D was struck at the Denver Mint, and the small d beneath the date identifies its origin. According to PCGS, the 1950 D issue had a substantial mintage of about 334,950,000 pieces, Yet high-grade examples with exceptional preservation can command dramatically stronger prices than ordinary circulated pieces. This is exactly why collectors should never judge an old wheat penny only by its dusty appearance. A coin that has spent many years in storage can still deserve a closer examination, and the right combination of date, mint mark, preservation, color, strike, and certification can turn an ordinary-looking discovery into an interesting collectible. The story of the 1950 Wheat penny begins during an important period in American history. The Lincoln cent had already become one of the most recognizable coins in the United States after its introduction in 1909, featuring the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the famous wheat ears on the reverse. Victor David Brenner designed the original Lincoln cent, and the wheat reverse remained part of the series through 1958. By 1950, this design had already developed an enormous following among American families, young collectors, coin hunters, and numismatists. The 1950 belongs to the later era of the wheat cent series, making it especially interesting to collectors who enjoy completing date and mint mark collections. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these cents, placing the 1950 among the widely encountered issues of the series, but the surviving coins are not all equal. Time, circulation, storage conditions, handling, and environmental exposure created enormous differences between individual examples. That difference is what gives collectors a reason to examine even a dusty specimen carefully rather than immediately dismissing it. One of the most exciting aspects of this coin is its design. On the obverse, the coin features Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1950. Beneath the date is the important Denver mint mark, which tells collectors that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. Flip the coin over and the famous pair of wheat ears appears on either side of the central inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. The coin is approximately 19 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 3.11 grams, and PCGS identifies the composition as 95% copper with a balance consisting of tin and zinc. These characteristics make the 1950 immediately recognizable as a classic wheat cent. For collectors, the combination of Lincoln's portrait, the historic wheat reverse, the 1950 date, and the Denver Mint mark gives the coin a strong identity within the series. Even when dirt and dust obscure some of these details, the underlying design remains a fascinating piece of American numismatic history. Now let's talk about the dusty condition, because this is where many coin hunters can become especially interested. A coin described as very dusty may simply have accumulated surface dirt from long-term storage, an old collection, a box, a drawer, or another environment. The most important thing is to preserve the coin rather than trying to make it look brand new. Collectors value original surfaces, and aggressive cleaning can permanently change the appearance and collectible character of a coin. Instead of immediately polishing or scrubbing the 1950 examine it carefully under good lighting. Look at Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, lettering, date, and mint mark, then inspect the wheat ears and lettering on the reverse. Even if the coin looks heavily dusty, the underlying surfaces may still reveal attractive details. The goal is not simply to make an old coin shine, the goal is to understand exactly what you have. A dusty coin can be an exciting discovery because its true condition may not be obvious until it has been carefully examined. The collector demand surrounding the 1950 becomes even more interesting when condition enters the picture. The difference between a circulated example and a superb uncirculated example can be enormous. PCGS auction records show that ordinary certified mint state examples have sold for relatively modest amounts, while exceptional pieces can reach substantially higher levels. For example, PCGS records include a 1950 MS65 example sold for $45, an MS66 example sold for $28 in one recorded auction, and an MS67 example recorded at $71 in an earlier sale. More recent market information also shows continued activity for high-grade examples. NGC's auction data, for instance, records a 1950 MS67 red NGC coin selling for $414.80 on June 22, 2026. These figures demonstrate why collectors pay close attention to preservation. The date and mint mark create the foundation, but condition, color designation, eye appeal, strike quality, and professional certification can dramatically influence the market. The market becomes particularly fascinating when we look at the highest quality and unusual examples. PCGS currently records an auction record of $20,400 for a 1950 D Lincoln Cent graded MS68 red, sold by Heritage Auctions in January 2025. Gray Sheet Auction Information also reports a $20,400 result for a 1950 D struck 40% off-center and graded MS65 red PCGS, while other dramatic off-center examples have brought hundreds of dollars. These results are important because they show that a statement such as 1950 D Wheat Penny can be worth thousands needs to be understood in the context of exceptional condition, certification, rarity, or an important mint error. It does not mean every dusty 1950 D is automatically a $1,000 coin. Instead, it means the 1950 D date has a genuine collector. The 1950 D should therefore be viewed across a wide range rather than assigned one fixed price. Current market data shows ordinary examples around the low dollar range, with price guides and completed sales increasing as condition improves. One current market tracker lists approximately $3 for an ungraded example, about $5.66 in VF, around $10.34 in AU, roughly $8.39 in MS62, about $15.25 in MS64, and approximately $31.65 in MS66, while also showing much higher guide figures for very high grades. Certified and exceptional pieces can move into the hundreds of dollars, and extraordinary high-grade or error examples can reach thousands or even the five-figure level, as demonstrated by the $20,400 auction record. So if you are holding a dusty 1950 D Wheat Penny, the exciting question is not simply, is it worth 1 cent? The real question is what grade, color, surface quality, strike, and variety or error characteristics that particular coin possesses. That is where the potential collector value becomes much more interesting. For collectors searching for a valuable 1950 D, examination should begin with the date and mint mark. Make sure the coin really is dated 1950 and that the small d beneath the date is clearly visible. Then examine the overall condition. Look closely at Lincoln's hair and facial features, because these areas can reveal how much were the coin experienced. On the reverse, inspect the wheat ears, lettering, rims, and central details. Next, look for signs of an unusual strike or mint error. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, doubled features, unusual planchet characteristics, and other authenticated mint errors can attract significant collector interest. The auction records for 1950 D cents include several examples of off-center strikes, including pieces selling for hundreds of dollars, showing how dramatically an unusual mint-made characteristic can change the collecting story of an otherwise familiar date. The key is authentication and careful examination. A genuine mint error is very different from damage that happened after the coin left the mint. If your 1950 D is dusty, one of the smartest collector decisions is to resist the temptation to aggressively clean it. Do not use abrasive materials, metal polish, harsh chemicals, or vigorous rubbing simply to make the copper appear brighter. Instead, handle it by its edges, keep it in a proper protective holder, and compare it with photographs of professionally graded examples. If the coin appears unusually sharp, has attractive original color, shows very little wear, or seems to have a possible mint error, professional authentication and grading may become worthwhile. PCGS and NGC records demonstrate how certification gives collectors a standardized grade and creates a documented market history for many examples. A professional grade can be especially useful when a coin appears to be in an unusually high state of preservation. The dusty appearance should not automatically discourage you. What matters is what is underneath that dust and whether the surfaces retain desirable original characteristics. The 1950 D Wheat Penny is ultimately a wonderful example of why coin collecting remains so exciting. A coin that began its life as a 1-cent piece more than 7 decades ago can now become part of a collector's historical research, a Lincoln cent collection, a date and mint mark set, or even a specialized search for high-grade and error coins. The normal 1950 D is not inherently a rare coin simply because it is old, but the finest survivors and dramatic mint error examples can be highly desirable and command much stronger prices. PCGS lists the original mintage at about 334.95 million, while its population and survival data show that the number of coins surviving in truly high grades becomes much smaller as the grade rises. That is the real opportunity for collectors. Not every 1950 D is a jackpot, but every 1950 D can be worth examining. A dusty example may be the beginning of a fascinating discovery, especially if it contains better-than-expected detail, attractive original surfaces, an unusual strike, or another collectible characteristic. So, if you have a 1950 D Lincoln Wheat Penny sitting in an old collection, a jar, box, drawer, or envelope, take another look at it. The little D under the date is your first clue. The wheat reverse confirms its place in the historic series, and the condition tells the next part of the story. Current market evidence ranges from ordinary low-dollar examples to hundreds of dollars for strong certified pieces and into the thousands or more for exceptional coins and major mint errors, with a documented PCGS auction record of $20,400 for a superb MS-68 red example. That is why the 1950 D remains an interesting target for wheat penny collectors. Whether your coin is dusty, brown, bright, circulated, or surprisingly well preserved, give it the attention it deserves. Examine it carefully, protect its surfaces, compare it with reliable auction records, and consider professional grading when the coin appears exceptional. The next old wheat penny you pick up could be more interesting than it first appears, and that possibility is what makes searching through vintage coins so rewarding. Number 4. The 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, a classic American 1-cent coin that can attract serious attention from collectors when its date, variety, condition, originality, and overall preservation come together in the right way. The 1941 Wheat Penny belongs to one of the most recognizable periods of American coinage, and even though millions were produced, exceptional examples can become much more interesting in the collector market. The Philadelphia Mint struck 887,018,000 examples of the 1941 Lincoln cent, and because Philadelphia coins did not receive a mint mark, the absence of a letter below the date is exactly what we expect to see on an authentic Philadelphia issue. What makes this coin especially exciting for a collector is that an old, dirty, heavily circulated-looking piece can still deserve a closer examination before anyone decides what it is worth. There is a tremendous difference between simply seeing the words 1941 and 1 cent and understanding the history, variety possibilities, condition, and market factors behind the coin. In this video, we are going deep into the story of this 1941 no-mint mark wheat penny, looking at its historical background, its unique design, what collectors search for, how condition can transform its desirability, and why exceptional certified examples can reach impressive prices. So if you have one sitting in an old collection, inherited box, coin jar, or forgotten drawer, stay with us because this classic wheat penny deserves a very close look. To understand why the 1941 wheat penny is so fascinating, we need to travel back to an important period in American history. The Lincoln cent had already been in production for more than 3 decades, having been introduced in 1909 with Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the wheat ear reverse design. The 1941 issue was produced just as the United States was approaching one of the most dramatic moments of the 20th century. In that year, America was moving toward its eventual entry into World War II, and the economy, industry, transportation, manufacturing, and everyday life were all being shaped by the international situation. The Philadelphia Mint produced an enormous quantity of these cents, with 887,018,000 struck without a mint mark. That huge production figure tells us that the coin was an important part of everyday commerce, moving through stores, banks, pockets, cash registers, and countless transactions. Every one of those coins became a tiny piece of history. The copper composition of the regular 1941 cent was 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, with a diameter of approximately 19 millimeters and a weight of approximately 3.11 grams. When you hold a genuine 1941 wheat penny today, you are holding a coin connected directly to an America standing on the edge of a world-changing conflict. That historical connection is one of the reasons wheat pennies remain so popular among collectors, because they are not simply pieces of metal, they are tangible reminders of another era. Now let us look closely at the unique features that make the 1941 no-mint mark wheat penny easy to recognize. On the front, you will see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1941. On a Philadelphia issue, there is no mint mark beneath the date, and this absence is not an error. It identifies the coin as being struck at the Philadelphia Mint. On the reverse, you will find the famous pair of wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, together with the traditional motto E pluribus unum. This wheat reverse is the feature that gives the series its popular name, the Lincoln Wheat Penny. The design itself has become one of the most recognizable images in American numismatics. For someone examining a very dirty or rough-looking 1941 coin, the most important first step is to confirm the date and identify the reverse. Dirt and dark toning can make the details difficult to see, but the basic design should still be identifiable. Collectors also pay close attention to the surfaces, lettering, Lincoln's hair and facial details, the wheat ears, the rims, and the overall quality of the strike. PCGS identifies several major varieties for the 1941 cent, including regular brown, and red examples, as well as 1941 double-die obverse varieties. That is where the excitement increases, because a coin that appears ordinary at first glance may deserve additional examination for variety attribution. The phrase, very dirty and rough condition, can actually make a coin more interesting to investigate, because appearance alone does not tell the entire story of a coin's identity or potential collector interest. A coin that has spent decades exposed to dirt, moisture, handling, or other environmental conditions may have dark brown coloration and accumulated surface material, but the underlying date and design can still provide important information. The key is to distinguish natural age and toning from damage, cleaning, corrosion, or alterations. A collector should never assume that dirt itself makes a coin rare or valuable. Instead, the exciting opportunity is to carefully identify exactly what is present. A 1941 no-mint mark cent is a Philadelphia issue, and its large mintage means that the date by itself does not automatically make every example a high-dollar rarity. PCGS describes the regular 1941 cent as widely available in circulated and lower mint state grades, while the major collecting opportunity becomes much stronger in exceptional high-grade examples. This distinction is extremely important for a responsible YouTube presentation because it shows viewers how the real coin market works. The same date can have dramatically different values depending on grade, color designation, strike quality, originality, variety, certification, and eye appeal. A worn example can still be a wonderful historical collectible, while an extraordinary example with outstanding preservation can enter a completely different level of the market. One of the most exciting areas for collectors is condition rarity. The 1941 cent was made in enormous numbers, the part that attracts so much attention whenever someone discovers a 1941 wheat penny. It is important to separate the value of a normal circulated example from the prices achieved by exceptional certified coins. Current reference data shows that ordinary circulated 1941 Philadelphia cents can have modest values, while high-grade red examples can become dramatically more valuable. Numista, using CDN publishing retail indications, lists example values rising through the mint state grades, including approximately $150 for MS67 red and approximately $4,400 for MS68 red. More importantly, PCGS records an auction result of $15,600 for a 1941 Lincoln cent graded MS68 RD at Heritage Auctions on January 19, 2025. PCGS also records an earlier $25,312.50 result for an MS68 RD example sold through Great Collections in 2023. These figures demonstrate why collectors sometimes talk about 1941 wheat pennies reaching hundreds, thousands, or even five-figure dollar prices. However, those extraordinary numbers belong to exceptional examples and should never be presented as the guaranteed value of every dirty or rough 1941 cent. The exciting message for collectors is that the market has demonstrated real demand for top-quality examples, and that gives every old coin a reason to be examined carefully before it is dismissed. Another fascinating possibility is the 1941 double-die obverse. PCGS lists multiple 1941 double-die obverse varieties, including FS 101, FS 102, and FS 103 examples, showing that the year offers more than just the standard Philadelphia issue. For a collector, This means the examination should not stop after identifying the date and confirming that there is no mint mark. Look closely at the lettering and numbers, compare the coin with reliable variety references, and pay attention to unusual doubling that appears in appropriate areas. Genuine double die characteristics are created during the die-making process and are different from ordinary machine doubling or damage caused after the coin left the mint. This is one reason magnification can be useful. A strong collector habit is to photograph both sides of the coin under good lighting and compare the features with trusted numismatic references. If something appears unusual, professional attribution can be worthwhile. The exciting possibility of a variety is one of the reasons old wheat pennies remain such a popular collecting field. Even when a coin does not turn out to be a major variety, the examination itself teaches collectors how to identify minting characteristics and understand the remarkable details hidden inside these small pieces of history. For collectors who discover a 1941 wheat penny in very dirty or rough condition, preservation should be the first priority. One of the biggest mistakes a new collector can make is trying to make an old copper coin look shiny by aggressively cleaning or polishing it. Instead of improving the coin, cleaning can permanently change the original surface and reduce its numismatic appeal. A collector should handle the coin carefully by its edges, avoid abrasive materials, and avoid rubbing the surfaces in an attempt to remove every mark or stain. If the coin appears especially interesting because of its date, unusual design features, or possible variety, consider having it examined by an experienced coin dealer or professional grading service before taking any major action. Professional authentication and grading can be especially useful when a coin may have significant value, because a certified grade provides a standardized description of condition and helps buyers and sellers communicate. For an old copper coin, originality matters tremendously. A naturally aged brown surface, attractive toning, strong details, and undisturbed surfaces can all contribute to collector interest. The goal is not simply to make the coin look new. The goal is to preserve the history that is already there. The collector demand surrounding the 1941 wheat penny is also connected to the enormous popularity of the entire Lincoln wheat cent series. Many collectors build complete year and mint mark sets, while others specialize in varieties, high-grade red cents, historical coins, or particular decades. The 1941 Philadelphia issue can therefore serve as an important piece in a broader collection. Its no mint mark identity makes it easy to distinguish from the Denver and San Francisco issues, and its position within the pre-war period gives it strong historical character. Collectors also enjoy comparing the 1941 cent with other dates from the wheat penny series to see differences in color, strike, preservation, and surface quality. The most advanced collectors may pursue registry quality coins, where tiny differences in grade can have a major effect on desirability. PCGS notes that the finest known 1941 examples include MS-68RD coins with documented auction histories, demonstrating that condition can transform an otherwise common date into a highly competitive collectible. This is why the phrase rare coin should be understood carefully. Rarity can come from low mintage, survival, variety, or exceptionally high condition. In the case of the 1941 Philadelphia cent, the greatest opportunity is particularly connected with condition and recognized varieties rather than simply the absence of a mint mark. So, if you have a dirty 1941 wheat penny without a mint mark, what should you do next? Start by identifying it correctly. Confirm that the date reads 1941, examine the area beneath the date to verify that there is no mint mark, and inspect both sides under good lighting. Look at Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, the date, the wheat ears, the rims, and the overall surface. Use a magnifying glass or appropriate loupe, but avoid scratching or scraping the coin. If you notice unusual doubling or an especially strong and attractive appearance, compare it against reliable references. If the coin appears potentially valuable, professional grading can be considered. Keep photographs and records of where the coin came from if that information is known, because provenance can sometimes add an interesting historical dimension. Thanks for watching and happy selecting. Subscribe my channel, like videos and share videos.